Welcome, everyone, to TradersPost office hours for March 29th, 2024. I'm your illustrious host, Tom Hartman, here with the ever insightful Mike Christensen, CSO and co-founder of TradersPost. How's it going, Mike?
Always well, Tom. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. You helped me get out of my crypto trades before crypto went down a little bit, so I feel pretty good.
Yeah, it's been an interesting continuous test of that resistance zone on crypto, hasn't it?
Well, especially since none of my tools work without any. There's no history up there, so it's just as the price is forming, you're making your hypothesis. Pretty interesting. I'm not usually in that situation.
All-time new highs. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
It's been we weren't here last week, which was I didn't get to tell you it was my birthday last Friday.
Oh, Tom, I missed it. I'm sorry. Happy birthday.
Absolutely. It's been fantastic. Perfect. My wife treated me very well, so I'm very happy about that. But it's also spring, so we figured, okay, there's going to be a bunch of new things coming into the markets. It always feels like a different sort of market when you would get into the spring, May area. You have the whole sell in May and go away sort of thing. And there's all kinds of things that I sort of like bees coming out of hibernation. I feel like I need to get ready and prepare for.
There's a new smell in the air, right?
Yeah, because like crashes in the markets happen generally in March, April, or in September, October. And so once I get past the crash window, I go, okay, time to create tools, time to make things better, and put making life-changing money on the back burner for a bit. All right. So for this week, we have we have a couple of questions from last week and a couple of new ones. So we're going to be happy to address those here. There are, but let's start off with an announcement. So there's only one announcement this week, and that's about, I don't know if you saw this yourself if you're using TradingView, but last Friday there was a sort of like a glitch with alerts on TradingView where alerts weren't firing or firing reliably, or they were delayed. There was some sort of issue with the server. This is one of those things to keep an eye on. I know we talked about on our last office hours this idea of set it and forget it. Well, this is one of those things you don't want to forget, right? You want to make sure that you're paying attention to make sure that the whole funnel of how your signals are going to get to the end, you're monitoring that. And so I just wanted to bring up the idea that you can always go to the status, the TradingView status page if you want to, in order to they'll give notifications here if there's any issue. Let me just pull that up.
Yeah, and I think I should add, I noticed it even while I was on vacation. I was in New York, and on their desktop app, they had a little icon on the trading symbol that indicated that alerts were down. And that's the first time I've ever seen that icon before, because obviously this doesn't happen very often. So the status page, I think, is super helpful. And then there's the icon on the actual trading chart itself. It's next to the symbol in the top left-hand corner.
That's right. And so I just wanted to bring that up as just a reminder to people that the onus is on every trader to make sure that every part of your process or your strategy is working the way it needs to. Obviously, we spoke about it in the Discord group. We'll always let people know whenever we can if there's any issues like that we're made aware of beforehand. But these things do happen. It can happen at your broker. It can happen at TradingView. That's just the name of the game. So good to know. So let's move off to our first question of the week, and it comes from Alt QQ Trading V, who asks, "Can we fire a signal from Telegram to TradersPost? Can we send a signal? We talked about TradingView, we talked about TrendSpider. You can send signals from those applications to TradersPost, but can you send something from Telegram to TradersPost, Mike?"
I believe it is possible. I haven't personally done it, so I can't speak to how perfectly it executes, but I have seen a few scripts floating around GitHub on how you can tap into Telegram's API in order to capture the messages, and then effectively you would then relay those off to TradersPost by developing a webhook call and then posting it out. So in order for that to work, you'd have to have a service that you're running on a little web server that is listening to Telegram and then relaying that off to TradersPost. It can be a little complex because I've seen a lot of times the signals from Telegram or from specific Telegram groups can be lengthy and include a bunch of emoji and icons, and it's hard to parse text like that into a specific trading signal. So you would have to be very careful to ensure that what you're reading from that post on Telegram makes sense to translate into a JSON payload for TradersPost, because the payload or message that you have to send to us is a very specific instruction. What's the symbol you're trading? It has to be the correct symbol. It can't be a symbol that only the Telegram group talks about. For example, I'm part of a small WhatsApp group, and no one actually refers to Tesla as TSLA. They all refer to it as Elon, ELON. And we know what they're saying, but that's not obviously the symbol for the stock. So you would need to be careful that the tickers you're actually sending are correct, that the message to buy or sell is correct, and all the specific instructions line up with the actual signal from Telegram. So while definitely possible in theory, I think it would take some work to clean it up and get it working properly.
Yeah. So one of the things I do is that I use autocode.
Mhm.
No affiliation between TradersPost and autocode. This is just a tool that I use myself. And what it allows me to do is to, if you're used to Replit, this is sort of like Replit, but for, in a sense, but for JavaScript. And so I'll send signals to this, which acts as like my mini server. I get to parse it however I need to, and
Mhm.
then I'll send one signal to Telegram or Discord or what have you, and then you can send the other signal, let's say, to TradersPost. So you can make sure that the format is what it needs to be at every endpoint. And one of the things I really like about this is that I pass it through OpenAI's through AI, just to filter some of the signals, filter some of the format, and it's great because I just tell instead of having to build out all the different the formatting within the script itself, I'll tell OpenAI, hey, this is the format that I want at the end. Just make sure it looks that way.
Yeah.
If it implies a certain thing, make sure you set it up the way it needs to. These are my my safety parameters or what have you. It sends back the output, and then that's what gets sent. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, great resource. Yeah, I've never used this specific service, but I think this could work.
Yeah, and it's very affordable, very easy to use, and it has an AI thing built within it, but it's trivial to ask ChatGPT or Claude or what have you to write up the script that does the thing that you're asking it to do, and to walk through the steps of how to actually set that up into autocode. I'm not like a super knowledgeable in JavaScript, but because I know some other programming languages, or I have some sort of history with computers, it was very straightforward and simple to debug it, to test it, to get it up and running.
Mhm.
And I have clients who are like, "Oh, great, you have this this like mini server that you can set up for me in order to do this," which is great. Like it even sends to like if there's payment systems, it can integrate with Stripe. It can send stuff on Twitter. It can do all kinds of things. All right, I've sung the praises of autocode enough. And the reason I was mentioning autocode as opposed to Replit is that I don't think Replit has a webhook. Like you can't receive a signal, whereas autocode you can. It can receive the signal from TradingView and then do what you need to do, and then send that out to where it needs to be. Anyway.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm going to give that a look as well.
All right, next up, we have a question here about stop orders. So, can we send a stop order for entering a position above the current price? This comes from Matari Malam. I should have tried to pronounce that name before the stream, but there we go.
Apologies if we butchered that one. Yeah. Um, so I'll assume this is a short, because if you're looking to put a stop order above the current price, that would imply that your bias direction would be to the downside. And the answer is yes. It depends on whether the broker supports bracket orders. If the broker does, like TradeStation, then you'll be able to attach your stop loss and set the specific stop price that you want it to execute at, which would be above your entry price. You can manage that stop in TradersPost as well as part of your strategy settings if you don't want to send the price in the signal. Or you can send a separate order after the fact. So let's say you send your entry signal, and then the very next bar, you have some logic in place that says, am I in a position? Yes. Do I have my stop order set? No. Then send a second alert that then sends the stop order. So that second trigger can then go out and set a stop limit or a stop market order above the current market price.
Perfect. All right. Next up, questions from 20 Seconds of Courage. Any plans to add blackout dates so our bots could pause for things like FOMC, CPI, OPEX, NFP instead of manually disabling the night before?
Yeah, I like this question. I think this is, on point with some of the filters that I use for my trading. I know Tom and I, we worked on that earnings report script that tells you which NASDAQ components are coming up in terms of earnings. So I can make filters around when I trade and when I don't. If Apple's about to have an earnings report, in all likelihood, that's going to move the price pretty significantly on NQ. And that type of volatility I'm looking to avoid. So if you're looking to filter out FOMC, CPI, OPEX, right now, what a lot of us might be doing is opening the economic calendar in TradingView and reviewing what's coming up so we can get a sense of when to filter that. But I think it's a really good request to add this type of calendar. The more recent filter feature that we added to TradersPost was the time window feature, which allows you to choose when we'll accept your trades within like a specific range of trading hours. I think this is an additional feature that fits right into that kind of filtering category. We have it on the roadmap, and I think the very question prompts a little bit of a prioritization on that. So there are plans. Couldn't give you a roadmap or a timeline for it yet, but definitely something we're looking into.
That's right. Maybe we should create a actually, some of the indicators that we've been putting out do have that sort of like no, they have session times where you can have the signals fired within a particular session, but I guess we could have something that that deals with these things. It's very popular in prop firm trading, right? There's all kinds of accounts that won't even allow you to
trade on
trade
days.
anything on the account, and it'll even close positions out beforehand. So yeah, makes a lot of sense to have that.
I don't think TradingView has the economic calendar in PineScript though. That's one of the disadvantages. So when you write it, you have to know all the calendar dates in advance, and the script has to be manually set to say, if the trading day is this day and it happens to be an FOMC meeting day, then the answer is true, which would mean there'd have to be this ongoing process of updating that script and making sure everybody has the latest version in order for that to work over the very long run. So getting it over to TradersPost would be a nice benefit, because then we would always be updating the calendar on our side, and it would just work automatically within when you send your signal over.
Yeah, plus with the depending on what assets you have, because on TradingView, it the script only knows the data for the candle that it's on. Like, you might not be able to choose like the date. You might have to choose the date before, and if that date before is let's say on a weekend or what have you, well, then there's no candle on that day, and so I'll end up running a bunch of scripts for clients on Bitcoin because I know, oh, there's a bar every moment, which is a workaround for that. So yeah, I guess it'd be a lot more sense to have it on TradersPost.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, question from Interstellar Ape. Has anyone talked about adding implied volatility to a subscription? It would be awesome if we could select a time frame, and if the IV rank or sorry, let me if the IV rank was lower than a certain level, then the options contract would be entered. We've touched on this many times. I know. I mean, I'm an options trader, and so I really love the idea of having these tools that expand to include options in a more robust way. I'm already highly impressed that that TradersPost does allow options with certain brokers, with the brokers that do allow it. And so, what do you think about this idea of adding implied volatility as one of the metrics to be used for subscription?
Yeah, we're game. It's on the roadmap as well. We've discussed it internally. I think there's plans to create some filters around the Greeks. So you'd be able to filter out for delta, filter out for gamma, vega, so on and so forth. The plan around calculating implied volatility would be there as well. I think we can also incorporate historical volatility and give you a premium between the two. So if IV is well above historical volatility, we can give you that filter. So the calculations we all know are fairly easy to do. The math is there. The programming is there. The data is available from the broker. So we have kind of all the pieces to put it all together, but it's going to take some time to comprehensively test it and make sure that it will work for everybody. This concept here, if I'm reading this correctly, I think they're asking, we don't necessarily have to have all of the lengths of the IV, but if you give us a choice, IV 30, IV 60, or IV 90, we'd like to be able to filter on that. So we may not be able to offer multiple types of implied volatility. We'll probably choose one standard calculation, and then you can create a filter from that. But that's definitely in the planning stages at the moment.
We were also geeking out yesterday during an internal meeting about TradingView. Looks like they're testing out, they're beta testing out the have an options chain information on TradingView. Let me just show that real quick because
Yeah, I think while everybody's waiting for TradersPost to figure this out, it could be possible to do this in TradingView soon.
on the right now, I think it's only working on the NSC. The idea here you can have an options contract. Well, let me choose one that's
Has a little
more
history.
elegant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go with 20. Let's go to 25th. Let's say. Anyways, it's basically you're getting the price chart for the that options contract, which I mean that's one of the calculations. That's one of the things you need for calculating IV. You need the price of the options contract for certain dates within the future. And so if we had that within TradingView, there might be a possibility, a world one day where we have a whole host of new types of scripts and strategies that can be created that takes IV being calculated directly from the data into consideration. And my goodness, it's going to be sort of like a World of Warcraft days where you're not going to see me for 2 years while I figure out all the things I want to create because of it. It's so exciting, the idea of anyone who if you you touch the option space. And just a tip, piece of advice for anyone who doesn't understand options, one of these derivatives, you might be more comfortable with spot or futures. The things that options tell you is absolutely invaluable, even if you don't trade it. It's traded directly, and so even you're filtering some of your trades based on what options data is 30 days out or what have you. You might find that depending on your strategy, depending on your temperament, you might find that you're actually reducing the number of false signals that you have and increasing the amount of the performance of your strategy. And so it's worth it to go and spend a few hours, days, weeks, what have you, wrap your head around what options are telling you and use it as one of those, use IV as one of those just like you might check the non-farm payroll report, you might look at the financial conditions. Looking at what the options data is saying matters a lot. I know FinTwit always has like options information floating around, but I read those things and I go, if you don't know about options, like you have no idea what is being called, what's being discussed here. And it's sort of like this whole blind spot that you really want to clear up.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is pretty exciting to see. It's the first time I've seen options contracts specifically listed as tickers you can view on TradingView. So this is a step in that direction where I think we'll be able to create a lot of strategies around option pricing, where IV currently sits. If there's any variance between the option price and the underlying asset, those things can be monitored for. So there's some cool things that I think will be possible when you're working with multiple securities in the same script, which I think will need to be a component of this, even for doing Black-Scholes and actually pricing the option and getting the implied volatility. You'll have to get the underlying asset too. So you'll get the options price, but you'll have to use request.security in order to get the the stock price as well. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of scripts people come up with as they're combining some of this data together.
Last summer, I spent about a week writing the script to scrape barchart.com and other sites in order to grab the IV information that I need and all that. Turns out websites don't like that. They don't like when you're scraping all their pages for massive amount of information regularly. And then when I look at the price of what it costs in order to in order to have access to that data, my goodness. I mean, the savings alone to have that on TradingView, plus to have the historical information, right? To be able to compare this over time. Oh, okay, forget it. I could talk about options all day long.
Do you think TradingView is going to only make it available to certain price tiers? Because options data is pretty expensive. It's exponentially more data than the spot price of a stock, or the historical price of stocks. So I imagine that it's a data heavy feature to include for even free accounts. It's probably something that they'll price in, would be my guess. Because you're making a good point. It is expensive to look at options data on other platforms, and I don't know that's necessarily just because they can charge that price. You go to Market Chameleon or something like that, and the competition in pricing, I think, exists out there to where you can get a pretty good deal to get options pricing. That said, I don't know if TradingView can afford to just give it away for free to everybody who's a subscriber, even at the lowest tiers. It might be something that's only available at premium plans or above.
Well, TradingView Reddit was aflame when they dropped the number of indicators you can have on the free account from 3 to 2. I mean, people just absolutely exploded. So I'd imagine, and I think they added 2 new types of tiers for pricing plans, so that if you want to have 10 charts, 16 charts, or whatever it is, like for your layout. And so, yeah, I totally expect. What I hope is that they have granular, that you can get the options data for just the sort of assets that you're looking for.
Yeah.
I know when I have to pay for certain currency futures, it's a whole other plan in and of itself. You're paying hundreds of dollars in order to get that. But if you're dealing with any type of options, like for the premium that you're doing and for the types of losses that you can have, I would want that barrier of entry. Like, all right, let it be a barrier of entry of a few $100s per year, per month, even, because you can lose your shirt if you're using options information incorrectly. I always laugh like a little bit internally, like just sort of like a Schadenfreude, where someone goes, "Well, I don't want to pay." They're using the free version of TradingView, and they don't want to pay $15 a month in order to just upgrade it a little bit. I think to myself, well, then maybe paper trade for a while. If the $15 a month is going to hit you that hard, maybe you don't want to be jumping into it, with both feet, if that's the hurdle. But I feel a little bit elitist when I say that. But that's fine.
No, I hear your
could be a
point,
little
though.
elitist for that.
I hear your point. I think there is a barrier of entry required at certain levels, especially when you're working with derivatives, just because of the inherent risk in trading them and holding them. So I'm with you. Sometimes paying more requires that people get a little more serious about their use.
Well, I used to do stand-up comedy shows, run stand-up comedy shows, and I thought to myself, I'll just make it free. I'll get sponsors. I'll get people to pay for it so that people can come in free. And the free shows were always worse than the paid shows. If you charge for something, then you'll get quality people. So that's how I feel about this sort of thing. All right, let them make their money, make the system a little bit better, and make sure that the people are not losing their shirt just because they could do it for free.
For sure. Turbo makes a really good comment here in our thread that the yearly sale for 70% off is manageable, and they make a great point. I think everybody's waiting with bated breath in around Thanksgiving when Black Friday shows up, because there's usually a huge discount at that point. So if the timeline for getting options data out of TradingView lines up with Black Friday, then it could be a good deal.
That's right. I think they did. Didn't they do another 70% off for Easter? I was like very surprised about that. I was like, okay, that's great.
Really? I
Yeah,
didn't see
I
that.
think so. Well, they were talking about it I think they were talking about it in our Discord. So I think that's why I saw it and didn't see the actual page.
Gotcha.
But that's pretty cool. All right. Last question here before we wrap up comes from JSafer88. I'm new to auto trading. Any words of advice anyone would like to pass on? I'm still figuring it all out. Is it worth the headache? What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. So there's a lot to unpack on this topic. Like making the journey from being a discretionary trader to an automated trader is a big jump in a lot of cases. It's a it's a jump in the way that you think about markets. It's a jump in the way that you think about how trades should execute, how you manage risk. And I think what I fell in love with is that it forced me to confront a lot of the psychology of how I was trading at the time before I moved into auto trading. I made all the classic mistakes that I think have been talked about ad nauseum on the internet about psychology and trading. You know, uh, making sure that you're consistent in your approach, keeping your stops at the right level and not moving your stop. And, even digging into some of the more prospect theory stuff like loss aversion, where people have a tendency of not allowing that stop to execute because they don't want to actually realize the loss. So the loss just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, or they'll average into losers. Like there's a lot of common behaviors that show up in discretionary trading that happen early on in everyone's career, and they did for me too. I'm no stranger to blown out accounts, so it's a process we all go through. It's tough to get over, and you can spend a lot of time trying to overcome that psychology, or you can use automation as a way to confront that psychology and address it head on, because it's part of that process of building a strategy requires that you consider how psychology plays a role. So, for example, there are a lot of biases that are fairly well documented, that you can account for in your trading strategy. We've talked about them a little bit in our blog. We've talked about overfitting, but there's a few concepts that are worth really kind of thinking about. The first is like recency bias. So recency bias, I think, shows up when you've traded for a few days. Let's say you have a new approach that you're looking at for markets, some new indicator that you're looking at, and you've been messing with it for the last couple of weeks, and you're starting to see some success. You've got some profit coming in. It seems like your trades are executing perfectly, and all of a sudden you start to build a sense of overconfidence, which is another type of bias that shows up here, that you've just found the holy grail here. I'm just going to trade this strategy forever. I think it's going to work now. And so maybe you say, all right, I'm going to turn this into an automated strategy. You go to stand it up, and the next thing you know, you've created something that only found a small window where this will work. This is also what we refer to as overfitting.
Right.
And so the disappointment shows up because you go to automate it and it just doesn't simply work, or it doesn't work consistently for a long time. And the reason for that is because you only focused on data that was in a very small window that was working at that time. So one of the advantages to automated trading is that you're forced to have to test this strategy over a very long period of time. That helps eliminate that possibility of overfitting and overconfidence and recency bias. And I think that benefit that you get from being more rigorous in your approach will show up over the long run. Maybe the other thing to consider when it comes to trading, which isn't just like overcoming the emotional part and the psychology aspect, is that it's just simply more efficient. I can start multiple strategies. I can have them all running at the same time. They're all going to execute when I expect them to. There's no fumbling over the keyboard and accidentally miskeying a price, or forgetting to hit the send order, or setting my limit price wrong. None of that happens. It's all going to execute the way that I expect. It'll also execute consistently. So as my account size grows, if I have my risk set on a relative basis, then as my equity grows, I'm not taking outsized risk or too little risk. You might have a strategy that you say, well, I only want to risk $100 per trade. Well, let's say that's worked really well over the long run. $100 is probably not big enough anymore relative to your account size. So your overall absolute returns aren't going to be as impressive as time goes on. So creating a consistent strategy that has relative size baked in makes it to where I don't have to keep readjusting anything. It just kind of happens over time. Maybe the other factor is that not only can I walk away from my computer, but some markets, the ones I trade specifically, are open nearly 24 hours a day, and there's no way I'm going to be doing trading at 3 o'clock in the morning. So having an automated strategy set up means that I might wake up to a great trade that was taken overnight. So I think the benefits far outweigh the implied headaches, or the sense of headaches that exist. I think the other benefit is, and this is a big one for me, I get to choose when I do my research now. So as the strategies are running, if I want to, jump on office hours with Tom here, while I know the markets are closed today, but let's just say the markets were open, I don't have to worry about missing some huge move at the market open here, because I've got strategies that trade the open. So it means that I get to choose when I evaluate my strategies, when I do the work to test the new strategy, and I can do it on my time and not be tied to the computer at 7:30 in the morning in Mountain Time here. So
Yeah, but it reminds me a lot of my wife does bullet journaling, where she has all these different journals and she's creating these different lists and different tasks and what have you. And then, but I've gotten her onto Sansama, an application that you showed me, Mike. And so what she does is that she uses her bullet journaling to manually figure out, experiment with different types of habits, different points of view, or what have you, which is sort of like the manual trading in my mind.
Mhm.
And then once she's gotten the process, she goes, "Oh, these set of 4 behaviors repeated in this way for this time period, or what with these, these parameters work very well for her." Well, then she puts that into Sasama, and then it reoccurs and it reminds her to do it. And so I've been trying to treat automated trading in that way. I do the manual one in order to explore, okay, what kind of strategy do I actually even care about? Because if you automate every strategy to begin with that you're experimenting with, there's a lot of like that initial setup, where you're getting that right, and you might not even care about that strategy afterwards. You might not even want to run it. So the manual stuff allows me to explore and then automate it afterwards once I have my rules right. And
Mhm.
then it's sort of like, because one of the problems I was having is that I would hate to do a trade journal where I log, okay, why did I make this trade and why did it fail? Why did it succeed? And I didn't really want to go over that. It was too painful for me to to examine myself that way. But with the automated strategy, what happens is that I already have an expectation of the outcome at the end. Right, I've
Right.
already decided that I should be, this percent profitable, or have this amount of failure rate, or if it fails or succeeds, these should be the conditions under which it occurs. And then it's sort of like, shooting an arrow from a compound bow. You have an expectations where it will go, and if you're off, well, then I can adjust it, and the performance of the automated strategy itself is what tells me if this is worthwhile to attempt, and I don't have to like look myself in the mirror and go like, Tom, why did you press the button when you shouldn't have pressed the button? And so I have that both part where I grow the strategy manually, and then I'm learning now how to automate that in order to make my life easier. So to me, it's not to for my part, it's not to trade more often. It's just so that I'm allowed to make mistakes. I'm expected to make mistakes in the manual, and then my automation, it's implement what I've learned.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think consistency is probably the main keyword here, is that once you've built that process and you built a strategy that you believe is robust and rigorous, and it's stood the test of time, you you're not gonna see your automated strategy show up on Monday drunk from Sunday night and miskeying trades, and maybe feeling a little bit emotional about where markets are and getting a little too afraid of how volatile things are. It's going to execute the trades exactly how you expect. So the overcoming emotions and psychology part, I think, is a huge advantage that takes a long time for individuals to go through, and zero time for a program to go through. So
Do you, if you're watching let's say you're watching the chart and your strategy is running, because I know this is a problem I have. If I see that, oh, I'm like about to get stopped out of this position,
mhm.
like my strategy is going to do that automatically. Do you rush to go and stop the the strategy, or go adjust it in any way, or can you just sit there and calmly watch this thing get closed out and then watch it bounce from 2 pennies away to go in the direction that you expected?
Yeah, I'm gonna let the strategy execute the way it was designed. If you, I mean, obviously, I think I've mentioned this too. Like, there's a there is a blog post I recently wrote about the different risks that show up in automated trading. And one of the unknown risks is if you interfere with your strategy, then that's going to lead to a different performance or a different equity curve than you projected for when you wrote your backtest. If you're messing with the strategy as it's attempting to execute the trades, then the performance can dramatically change. It could be one trade or two trades that make a big difference in the outcome.
That's right. Well, this is why I've been setting up automated trading when I'm sleeping. That way I am away. I cannot stop it. And I just wake up and I go, okay, that's what happened last night. All right. So we'll end here on, we got two questions, one from Turbo, one from Abu. They're essentially the same idea here. So I'm just going to touch on this. Turbo asks a question about automation. He has a particular type of indicator that he's using. He wants to know if it's possible to use a pre-existing bot to send signals to TradersPost. And then similarly, a question from Abu is asking, is it possible to auto trade in TradingView based on an indicator or strategy? The answer to both of these things are yes. Generally, yes. It depends on the script that you're using, right? It has to be set up in such a way that it has that in mind. Either it's using the alert system within TradingView, or it's setting up drawings or items on the chart that allows you to tie alerts to them. So if that's the case, and we do have videos on the TradersPost YouTube channel that go through a couple of these different examples, and we have more coming, then it is possible to do so. We can't guarantee the success of that bot or strategy, and generally speaking, you might want to add other types of confluences with that as well in order to make to refine the signals. And to that end is why we put out recently a script called Confluence of Alerts that allow you, depending on how the scripts you're dealing with are set up, to tie together multiple different indicators in order to get exactly the type of signal that you're looking for. So in general, yes, you can turn indicators and strategies that are live on these platforms like TradingView and send signals to TradersPost.
Yeah, and we should probably clarify that is 80 to 90% of exactly what our users do on our platform is automating TradingView indicators and strategies. I think Tom's point is absolutely correct. It depends on the indicator. It has to have some kind of buy or sell intent in there in order for you to actually capture what you need to. Not all indicators do that very well. If it's a strategy, it's more likely to have a correct buy and sell signal, obviously, and that should be easy to automate. Turbo's last question here was, do you need to know coding to run your system? And the answer is no. As long as the TradingView indicator or strategy has signals and alerts coded in that you can then translate to an alert that will connect to a webhook, which then gets sent over to TradersPost, and then we execute your trade for you. And there's no Pine script or Python or anything in the middle there. All you have to do is just kind of wire up these connections together, very similar to Zapier, in order to get those trades executed within your broker.
Yeah, a thing I would want to add on that is that even though you don't need to know any code, it's sort of like if your car, you don't need to be a mechanic in order to know how to fix it. But if you know where to go in order to get something fixed or changed inside your car, well, then that's just as good. So there's plenty of people out there who do have the knowledge in order to make modifications to whatever script or strategy that you want to do in order to get the signals that you want. And you go on Fiverr, on Upwork, on Reddit, or what have you. There's Discord groups where people will sometimes for free, sometimes for a fee, make the modification that you need to your script. So it's more about you being able to articulate what is the type of thing you're looking for, and then describe that to somebody who's able to do it. So don't let the code thing be like a deterrent. TradersPost does not, like Mike said, does not require you to be a coder in any way. But if you're interested in touching into that space, you don't need to learn code yourself. You can hire somebody else to do it.
Yeah. And I think that we've seen a lot of users do that, where they see an indicator that has a really good signal built into it, but it's not necessarily set up as a strategy. So they might hire somebody to take that code, translate it into a strategy, and actually get it working on TradersPost. I know, Tom, that's the type of work you do. We have several PineScript coders that we've listed in our documentation that have done work specifically for TradersPost as well. James asked how many traders are using TradersPost to automate their trading. We've got hundreds and hundreds of traders that are on our platform. We've had thousands of people sign up over the years. So it's a pretty big group. How can it be done if the broker in TradingView does not support auto trading? We don't have any brokers on our platform that don't support auto trading. All of them are completely in support of our approach. We have very close relationships with our brokers as well. We communicate with them regularly. And we've never had any specific issues with the process of auto trading with the brokers that we support. There are sometimes compliance policies that you have to follow. So like for Tradier, for example, in order to use our platform, you might have to sign an additional disclosure with them and a waiver. But other than that, it's completely supported.
I'd just like to make the distinction here in case anyone's paying attention to this. Even though TradingView does allow you to connect your some brokers to the platform directly, those brokers you can through that connection you can auto trade there. Right?
Right.
All the trading that happens when you're connecting your broker directly to the TradingView is for manual trading through the orders panel that exists on TradingView. If you want to do any type of automated trading, regardless of what you want to do, you have to use a third-party system like TradersPost in order to do that.
Yeah, and yeah, to be clear, I think that is the reason TradersPost exists, is that auto trading is not possible directly in TradingView, but they do offer the ability to create alerts with a webhook. And that is the entire idea of how this company started was, let's see if we can tap into that webhook and build a service that routes your order off to your favorite broker. I think the other thing is we support brokers that TradingView doesn't. We have a few on our platform that TradingView doesn't have. I think Robinhood being an example. So the other advantage is as we grow, we're adding more and more brokers to our platform, and you'll even be able to do sort of cross asset strategies. You could have a signal that comes from a stock, but also trades futures or trades an options contract at the same time. So it's multi-asset, multi-broker. The main focus for TradingView for you will be about rigorously testing a strategy and then sending those signals off to us.
Perfect. So we'll end here with, how can I pass this up? James says that you guys have an awesome product. Thanks for doing the streams. We're gonna keep on doing them. We would love to make your life a lot easier. That's what TradersPost is all about. We want you to be successful, and we want that success to come in a way that's as painless as possible. We can't stop you from making poor trades. Lord knows that I make poor trades. But what's great is that TradersPost allows me to more quickly make good and bad trades if that's what I want to do. And so we'll be here every day, every week, doing everything we can in order to make the best product for you. We're not disappearing. We're gonna be here every day.
Yeah, maybe one last one I can capture here from Turbo. He asked if you can link TD to TradingView through TradersPost. The answer is yes, but temporarily. You should know that Schwab bought TD Ameritrade, and it will be sunset very soon. We're in the process of communicating with Schwab on their new API, but they have not released it yet. So there's this gap here where TD is no longer supported and Schwab hasn't been released yet. The API for Schwab hasn't been released yet. So as soon as that is, we will incorporate it and get that listed as one of our supported brokers. Do you require the API of the broker in order to automate trading through TradersPost? Yes. If the broker doesn't have an API for us to tap into and translate into a common, fluent connection for all of your signals, then there's no way we can work with them. And that is the case for many brokers that we've spoken to. We have a fairly large list of brokers that we're planning to implement for, and we're waiting for in some cases. Schwab being a perfect example. They don't currently have an API yet. And Webull doesn't have a fully supported API. Trade8 is one of the brokers that we support. We just launched support for them in the last few weeks, actually, a couple months ago. I do want to circle back. I saw this mentioned earlier about the trusted signals bot for TradingView. If you have strategies or indicators like that you're interested in knowing how those might work, certainly we can do some content on those as well. One of the content pieces we do quite a bit is just showing how to wire up different types of strategies on TradingView. So maybe Tom, you and I we could take a look at the trusted signals one and see if that's something we can showcase.
That's right. Perfect. Okay, folks. It was a lively office hours. I'm always happy to have your questions. As you see, we will talk forever, and if it can make your life easier, happy to do so. So join us next time for more questions. You can always put them on Twitter. You can send us by email. You can put it in Discord, and we'll grab them and we'll answer your questions as best as we can. Hope you enjoyed it, Mike. It's been a great time, and we'll see you guys on another Friday.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for the questions, everyone.